Good morning. This is Ron. It's Sunday morning. Uh, let's see where we are. We on yesterday just kind of were fueled by questions and answers. Uh, Pastor was leading us, and of course, a lot going on in the world as we continue to discuss that, looking at spiritual implications of things. And um, let's see if we have any questions or comments on anything that may have come to your attention here lately. No one? No questions or comments about anything? Anything we talked about yesterday?
Ron, I want to make note of something. Does no one have a question or suggest or comment? No one have a question or
Yes,
comment?
Sir. Okay.
We have been talking for the last, well, ever since the conflict in the Middle East started. We've been talking about this, and there's so many different aspects of it until it's really difficult to address all of it. But the major parts of it, I think that we are in the process of addressing. One thing that I think that we did not really mention or think about probably is that the question is uh, why is Hamas declared to be a terrorist organization, and who made that designation? That's a real question. I think that if we really look at the history of this thing, we begin to see with a greater clarity or paint a clear picture of not only where this started, but also where we are today in regards to it. The church, at least as I grew up anyway, talked about there has been a conflict between Arabs and Jews forever, since Hagar and Abraham. And that has been the mantra, at least in the Black church anyway. However, it's far more recent than that, because there was no conflict between Arabs and Jews, because there were no Arabs and Jews during the time of Abraham. This whole concept of Arabs and Jews, if you look at the origin of these groups of people, you will find that they're young in terms of groups of people on this earth. As far as the Jews are concerned, we established last week that it's non-existent in terms of the etymology of the word Jew. This conflict, the destabilization of the Middle East, did not take place until 1948. We understand that. In 2006, that's when the election took place. I think it was 2006 or 2007, under the Bush administration. And Hamas was duly elected governing body for the Gaza Strip, and Fatah was in the West Bank. And Israel, as soon as the election was over, Israel said they were not going to recognize Hamas. And the United States followed suit immediately, even though they were the elected body, rather than to make an effort to discuss the future for that area. They just chose to dismiss them. And It was, I think, in 1997, maybe, that they were designated a terrorist group. When you think about that, the question is, who did it? America and Britain primarily. America first, then Britain, then Australia, and then Japan. This is what I'm getting at. If the word terrorist was being used in the during the period of enslavement, every uprising would have been at the hands of a terrorist group. And the same people who would deem that to be terrorism are the same people who determine who are terrorists today. When the Eastern Europeans were in that area, killing babies and bombing cars and homes, they were retaking their land, even though it was never theirs. But if you're a person of color and you rebel against European control, then you are designated a terrorist by the US and Britain. So what am I saying? The only people on earth who determine who a terrorist is are the people who are the terrorists, white people. Every European government on this earth has the right to determine who a terrorist group is, but people of color don't have that right. Yet they are always the ones who are at the other end of that designation of being terrorists, when in actuality they are simply defending themselves. And when you implant that in the mind of people over the years, then they began to buy into it without giving any thought to it. And when you think about how deeply involved this nation is, when you look at the idea that Israel has bombed in particular, northern Gaza, and rather than Biden and others around the world saying to them, you've gotten your retaliation, you've killed thousands of people, now end it. The bombing, the invasion is not necessary. Rather than do that, they are encouraging them to wipe Hamas out, meaning wipe the Palestinians out, because it is impossible to determine who's Hamas and who's not. And nobody is taking that into consideration when the bottom line is the Europeans and people of European descent are hell-bent on cleansing that area of anybody who does not look like them. And that in itself is destabilization. You cannot have a peace talk, a peace agreement, if you're only talking to one side. And the US and Britain are only talking to Israel. Keep this in mind, that Netanyahu has been heavily criticized by Biden ever since the Obama administration, and now he's hugging him. Why? Because it does not matter what you do. You can commit genocide if you are a white man. And when people of color began to defend themselves, the ones who condemned the genocide come together with the ones who committed the genocide, because when all is said and done, all of them are on the same page. They do the same thing, but they just do it differently. And the reality of it is that the U.S. is supporting war crimes. They know that war crimes have been and are being committed, but yet they are supporting it. Now, am I saying that Hamas did not commit war crimes? No, I'm not. I am saying that both sides committed war crimes. That happened, then you cannot simply overlook the war crimes of either one of them and pretend that it's okay. So I strongly suggest that you look at this with your eyes instead of your eyes, because I do not feel like this is anywhere near being over with. It is a reason that Saudi Arabia refused to condemn Hamas. When Saudi Arabia is the primary country, actually, that the September 11 bombers came from, the ones who hijacked the planes, rather. Saudi Arabia was never punished for that. It might have something to do with bin Laden's daddy being part of the Carlyle group that Bush's daddy chaired for a while. So all of these things must be taken into consideration if we are to bring order to that area. But again, I do not believe that this is going to end quickly, as it has in the past, because of the attitude of Netanyahu to drive all Palestinians out of the West Bank as well as out of Gaza. I'm done. Thank you. Unless there are questions or comments.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the time.
Anyone? Questions or comments? Okay. My pastor was talking. I was trying to remember what news agency this was on, but someone suggested that all of this may have even been initiated by Israel, meaning I poke until you push back, and to get this started. So if that is the case, then I think it may even suggest that U.S. may have known this is coming all along. But there's so many things going on, so many rumors and things that have not been, substantiated, I guess, and we just hold on and go by what we see.
Wars and rumors of wars.
Yeah. But someone in the earth has to cherish human life. But anyway, questions or comments? Anyone on anything?
This is Ramel, and I have a question
Ramel.
in my mind. Hi, it seems a little silly. What is the end game of the political players? Because spiritually, we know it's about bringing balance and harmony, but what is the end game of the politicians in this? Just to own some land, to control some land? Not own it, but what's their end game?
The end game is to subdue the whole world.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
See, Premier, that's a good question, because anyone who is a student of history, well, you don't even have to be a student of history. If you just read, period, you would see that from the first time that Europeans left the quote unquote borders of Europe and came in contact with other people, the quest has always been to control the world. And anyone who resisted was to be put down, meaning that they were to be wiped out. Look at how the genocide was committed against the indigenous people in this country, to the extent that what was his name? The general. He's the one who moved the Cherokee to Oklahoma, the Trail of Tears. Jackson, Joan Jackson, infected the blankets with smallpox that he gave to the Cherokee when they were being moved from their land to reservations in the Midwest. And the intent was to kill all of them before they got there. So this has been the mindset of the people who have been the leaders in this country and in other European countries around the world. The objective is to rid the world of people of color if you cannot control them. Thank you.
Good
Thank
question. Anyone? I'm sorry. Anyone else?
Hey, Ron,
Okay. Yes, sir.
why do Caucasians hate us so badly?
They
I
don't.
mean,
They don't.
it's in it they hate us so badly.
They don't hate us.
They don't hate us. So what's going on?
They're afraid of us.
Okay, I got you.
They have done so much. They have done so much to people of color until they're afraid that if people of color were to come into power, that they would retaliate for what's been done. Not understanding that we have never been barbaric. We have never wiped people out. We have never committed the atrocities that they have committed. This hatred is easier for them to swallow than for them to admit the fear that they have. And the greatest fear that's being expressed is the fear of not only us knowing who we are in terms of spirituality, but the greatest fear that they have, that Caucasians have, is that the African would learn his history. And that seems so benign, but that is the greatest fear. There have been more effort put into keeping us from learning our history than has been put into keeping us from voting. Because if you can keep a people believing that their history started with slavery, then you can keep them in a mindset of servitude. However, if you allow a people to see who they really are, and they begin to see that they are the original people on this earth, that they are the most spiritual people on this earth who has sought to destroy no one, but to support everyone. When you allow a people to see their history and they see that the Bible that was written, or excuse me, or the Bible, that when the Bible was written, the people who wrote the Bible lived like Cush was in his 18th dynasty when Moses came into existence, or when the Bible, when the Bible was written on the scrolls that were taken from Egypt. They were transcribed and put into and written into books called scrolls, which became the Bible. When you let people understand that that's who they are, when people begin to see that everything that is spiritual, everyone who's in the scriptures, everyone, not only their names but their actions are people of color, are Africans. When you begin to let people see that everything that was invented in this world for the benefit of humanity it came from people of color. When you allow that to happen, when you allow people to see that their history, during the course of their history, everywhere they went, people revered them and built statues to them and called them the gods of the sea. When you allow people to know that 4,000 years before Columbus was even born, Africans visited this continent. Columbus never came to America. These shores of America, Africans did. When you allow those things to happen, then what happens is these people now have a sense of who they are. And there is such pride there until they will refuse to even entertain a mindset of servitude. And they will move to a place where they seek to be in their rightful place. And the rightful place is making sure that humanity is cared for, and making sure that genocide is a thing of the past, making sure that these attitudes, these barbaric attitudes, are cleansed from the earth, making sure that righteousness and peace prevails, making sure that forgiveness is in the forefront of everything that they do. When that happens, then what happens to those who are in charge, whose history is written in the blood of those who they have slaughtered along the way? So it is a fear more so than it is a hate. Thank you. And anyway, even if it were a hate, it would be self-hatred, because if it were not for the African, they would not exist, because all of humanity came from the womb of an African. Thanks.
No, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
I have a question. So is this stubbornness or stiff neck with the European, is it necessary? And my other question is, if they were to just repent, if they were to repent for all the stuff that they caused in the universe, would it be a change?
Absolutely.
Those are my two questions.
Yes, it would be a change. All of this is necessary. I think it was it yesterday, maybe, when we were talking, and I was talking about when the side was taken from this entity called Adam, it was not that something was formed as much as it is that this entity became aware of its makeup, that it is male and female, or that the energy forces are complementary to each other, as opposed to simply being one force without a womb. When this entity was made aware that it was both a seed and a womb, then what happened? For this cause shall a man leave his father and mother. Into that comes the earth consciousness. In order for the earth to be made, the earth awareness or consciousness to be made as it is above, then there had to be some substance to be used for that. And the substance that's used are principles. And the principles that are antithetical to what the scriptures teaches are the principles that must be transformed into righteousness, so that as above, so is below, can come into existence. This has the principle that has been used are the ones that have been brought forth by the youngest people on this earth. That's Caucasians. The brutality of it all that has taken place from the first time that Caucasians came in contact with Africans, with anybody of color, that's when all of these principles of negativity began to permeate the earth. That's when the murders, the genocide, the enslavement, all of these things began to take place. And that is because of the dysfunctionality of the mind of those of the Europeans who came in contact with people of color. This dysfunctionality actually resulted in them bringing into existence a religion that was designed to conquer the world. And a government that would support this religion, and they being a support for each other. But also, more importantly, or just as important, I should say, an educational system that was devoid of any empathy or sympathy whatsoever. If you were empathetic, you could not serve in the government, because the government was stoic and cared nothing about anyone who was not able to fend for themselves. So this mindset is the substance that we are obligated to mold or to transform into righteousness itself, which means that this substance is there to push us in a corner so that we will begin to see that our eyes are delusional and that our eyes are perpetuators of the disorder or the dysfunction on the globe or in this universe. Our eyes are the perpetuators of that, because we see what's physical, we see the manifestation of what's physical, and we incorporate in our daily lives all of those things that keep us in bondage, us meaning the world itself, inclusive of Europeans, because you can't keep me in bondage unless you're in bondage too, and that's another story. And all of these things are there as this substance. So when we talk about bringing order, when we talk about balance, when we talk about harmony, when we talk about forgiveness, what we are actually doing is talking about the transformation of the heart, of the mind of those who are the perpetuators of brutality in the earth, the perpetuators of manipulation and control. And that's talking about the a mind transformation, the soul transforming the mind into that which is in sync with the one who created us. And in order for us to be the true essence of Elohim, we must adhere to this obligation and stop seeing, learn how to stop seeing with our eyes and begin to see with our eye. And when we begin to see with our eye, we begin to see that this transformation does not take place at the barrel of a gun, because it was a barrel of gun that created all the issues. This transformation takes place with love and kindness and forgiveness and mercy. And when we begin to be expressive of that in relationship to speaking the truth to the powers that be, and that's not necessarily to a physical face, but addressing the things that we address. When we began to do that, we began to see a shift. And when we see the shift, we first see it with our eye. And we talk about what we feel, what we're experiencing. We talk about how things feel different. And it just seems like things have changed or are changing. And that's seeing with our eye. And what happens is we begin to see the manifestation of what we see with our eye. We begin to see that manifestation with our eyes. And when we see the manifestation with our eyes, it's not because it's just not happening. It's simply because we're just embracing the reality of who we are and beginning to understand that the transformation has always been available, but we have not taken the opportunities that's been presented to us to embrace it, to the extent that we change everything through spirituality as opposed to making efforts to do it through governmental entities or religious entities that have been the catalyst for the chaos from the beginning. And I know I've said a lot, but I hope I've covered or answered at least your question. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Based upon Mr. Charles' initial question, and I agree with Reverend Richard, I do think the European is afraid of melanated people. Yet as far as hate goes, now I think we hate each other. Blacks really hate blacks. That's my opinion. and I do have evidence to support that. However, the question I do have is, if all the Europeans fell off the earth at this very second, how would this world be better? Or how would you, the individual, be better? How would we be better collectively? Because in asking myself that question and being around people who know me, in about 2 months, I'd probably be begging white folks to come back. So if the Europeans just fell off the earth, would this world be better? And if the world, how would you be better as an individual? Thank you.
Why would you be begging them to come back in 2 months? I'm trying to understand that part.
Just in my daily travels, I don't see enough of we keeping each other encouraged.
Why do you think the African hates other Africans?
Oh, African hate other Africans behind, number one, we bought into a culture of following the European. That's number one. African Americans, they want you to keep them happy and comfortable. They're not cool with, hey, you just keep me comfortable. You got to keep some African Americans happy and comfortable. And when you ask certain why is your happiness dependent upon me? They have no idea of happiness. So that's my daily travels. It's not shared by everyone else. Yet what I do see out here, I see Mexicans working with each other. I see Puerto Ricans working with each other. And they get stuff accomplished. They got a grocery store in Spartanburg. We lose a store in Spartanburg, and no one wants to talk about what we have to do to get a grocery store. The Mexicans working with one another now. So that's just my question. So if white folks fell off this earth, how would you be better as an individual? Thank you.
Ron, can I address this?
Please.
First of all, you talk. Let me just address hopefully the points that you're trying to make. Number one, you're seeing with your eyes, not with your eye, and that's a major problem. Number two, naming one community of Puerto Rican or a community of Hispanics that was burned to the ground because they were making progress, according to America. Name me one Wall Street that were burned down in their communities. Not one. Why? The reason it was done with us is because it was to discourage us from making an effort to do anything. Now, all of the things that you've named have been material things, and none of those are going to change anything at all. The only thing that changes everything is spirituality. Knowing who you are as far as your physicality means absolutely nothing. It has, knowing who you are physically has never, never changed anything. Knowing who you are spiritually changes everything. We have made every effort to change things in a physical way. And the only way that you can make an effort to change things in a physical way is either through violence or through a system that's stacked against you. The only way you change the system and the violence is by doing it through spirituality. And this idea of African people not working with each other, we did that. We actually did that. But there is no threat felt from the Hispanic. They don't feel any threat from the Puerto Ricans. None. The only threat they fear is from us. Because if you look at it, if you look at the history of this country, any European or any white American who knows anything about this country, and you hear them always talking about the Federalist Papers. If you have ever read the Federalist Papers, what you will learn is that if it were not for the African, we would be speaking the King's English. And if it were not for the African, Europeans would be speaking German. Every war in this country has been won on the backs of the African. So what I am saying in essence is this: there is no way that this country could function without us. And I am also saying, if the Creator allowed these things to happen to us, if the Creator allowed these atrocities not only to happen, but to continue to happen, it has to be for a reason. And the reason is not because of the weakness of the African. The reason is because of the need to change things. And the only one who is capable of doing that, the only one who was put in the earth to do that, are the most spiritual people on the earth, the ones from whose womb everyone came. We must take care of our children. And because we were not doing that, we were brought across the great river in chains. And during that period of transport from the shores of Africa to the shores of the Americas and the islands, a nation was born. And the nation that was born was the nation of Africans in this country, because the Africans of South America, the Africans of the islands, the Africans in diaspora, with the exception of America, are not in the belly of the whale. We are at the seat of power, of world power. Global dominance emanates in this country. And we are here to change everything. We are the changers. We are just now beginning to realize that. If we were to change it politically, and if Europeans wanted to get rid of us, they had a chance. Marcus Garvey, in the early 1900s, in August, for 1 month, he had a conference in New York with Africans from all over the world. 20,000 people, Africans, met there from all over the world to make plans. They wrote a constitution, they adopted a flag, and made plans for us to leave this country. And as soon as they found out that Africans was coming together as a group worldwide, what happened? They destroyed the organization. And it was not because of hate. They destroyed it because of fear. So we thought that we could do it that way, but the Creator allowed that destruction to show us that that's not the way, because that's not who you are. You are your mindset of government, your mindset of being of governing yourself cannot be based upon Greco-Roman governmental principles. Your principles have to be based upon the spiritual aspects of the scriptures, of the holy books that were written from the Cushites all the way through now. And in showing us that, we did not get the memo until recently. And when we got the memo, the biggest memo that we got, the most important memo that we got really, is the memo that said from the Mayans, if there isn't a change, humanity will cease to exist in 2012. Not on my watch, we say it. And from that point forward, we were shown things that were training us how to be the nation that was founded on the seas, that nation that was brought into existence between Africa and America. And now where we are seeing that votes don't change. It is spirituality that changes votes. We are seeing that government doesn't change, it's spirituality that changes government. we are seeing that religion doesn't change anyone. Spirituality changes everyone. So when we look at this, we cannot look at it through the eyes of economics that we are seeing in this material world. We cannot look at it through the same eyes that looks at us, because if we do, we will end up being the same people that those are who dominate, who dominate the world, and who are brutal with those with whom they come in contact simply because they don't look like them. That is not who we are. That is not who we must be. We must see that spirituality knows no race. Race is a made-up thing. In order to create the substance for change in the spiritual change in this earth, and the spiritual change has to begin where spirituality started. And the change begins with the African, more specifically, the African in this country, the African in the belly of hatred, the African that's in the belly of a bastardized world, the African who's in the belly of the genocidal maniacs, is the African who must change the world spiritually. There has been no brutality in slavery like was upon the African in America. America had the most brutal slavery on the face of the earth. The only reason that apartheid existed in South Africa and now in the Middle East with the Palestinians is because of what happened to the African in America. And that was our Creator's way of saying, when are you going to stop and listen at your soul and stop listening at your mind? When are you going to stop and pour from the bowels of your ancestors the route that you should be taking, as opposed to taking the route of the oppressor? That is thinking that you can kill your way out of this. When are you going to see that killing your way out is not the answer? Transformation is the answer. That's where we are now. And whether or not someone else is doing what we are doing, it doesn't matter. What matters is we stay the course and we embrace the reality of what we are doing, because we are seeing the results. We are seeing results not only with our eye, but we are seeing results with our eyes. Yes, it appears to be more chaotic than ever before, but it is not. It is not. You cannot put a structure where a structure exists without removing the one that's already existing. Then you can build another structure. So that's where we are now in this period of transformation. Thank you.
I would like to add something as well.
Yes, ma'am.
I yield, Ron.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, I would like to add something as well. From with our from the spiritual perspective, the European and I are one, and that's the basis of everything. And so if we see just unity, then we cannot do without the European. We do not want the European to fall off the face of the earth, because it is what happens in the moments of resistance that causes the chaos that leads to enlightenment. It is what helps to push us, not us, but us as a spiritual entity, to the point where we open up more and more, acknowledge more and more our relationship with the universe, become aware more and more of who we really are. So that we can help to transform hearts and minds of that part of our unistic self that doesn't know it. So I think we would be better. I think we would be worse off if Europeans fell off the face of the earth, because that means we are falling off the face of the earth, because they are us and we are them.
Thank you, Barbara. That's the part I missed that I did not address, rather. And I agree with you 100%, because that is impossible for them to fall off the face of the earth. That's no different than pushing your child off the face of the earth. What you want, because your child is behaving in a manner that is unbecoming, would you want to push them off the face of the earth? Or would you want to transform them?
I think I think the question gives us opportunity further to see who we are. And I woke up this morning early looking at something that hit me. I was talking to Pastor about yesterday, and I found a book that I bought some time ago. And when I look stuff up, there are sites that, as I'm sure most of the facilitators and pastor has trusted sites and authors that we look at. And two of mine are Douglas Klotz and Benner. And both of them have books out on nomadic life, being a nomad. And I don't think we fully grasp that concept yet. And I see it a little clearer in George's statement and question. Being a nomad is not just walking the earth. That's being Abraham is what he's saying. When you take on that energy, when you take on the life of following the Creator and pursuing truth, then you become the enlightenment, the energy in the earth that makes about changes. And you are blind. In other words, you no longer see with your physical eyes, and everyone becomes you. Everyone becomes your child. Everyone becomes your offspring. Everyone becomes your lot. And when statements are made like was made today, what it does to the nomad is it shows you in what direction you are to travel next. So you look at that and you look at the distinction of the country. The country is, I'm going to divide you. Everything is divided so that I can conquer you in these ways. And I make you hate each other based on your skin color. I make you hate each other based on your gender or even what chores you do on my plantation. This one does this and this one has favor here. I make you hate each other by taking your wives and sleeping with your daughters. I make you hate each other by the barbaric way that I treat your men. And that is in your DNA. But when you recognize, when you turn back and recognize, as Pastor said yesterday, it was a light bulb with me. I'm showing you a side of you that you have never seen before. And when you see that side, if you turn inward to see more, you recognize who you are. And you see that I am the nomad. I am the one who is blind to the sights of the physical world, but I am the vision for everything spiritual. And that's who we are. So that's what we got to embrace. Either embrace it or don't embrace it. But we get on this phone every week and we move in that direction. And we need comments like that, George, to show us what direction to push ourselves in. So the hatred is there, but there is a reason for it. And it too has an energy that needs to be transformed. So at the end of the day, I suppose, thank you for your comments and your observations.
Ron, I have a comment. This is Evelyn. I can see where George was coming from, but you know what? Like you were saying and Pastor was saying, we have to see with our eye. What I did, and the reason why I'm saying that because I had to delete my Facebook page. I had to get off Facebook because it's so much division. It causes so much division. And I realized that I was looking down at my phone more so than looking inward or looking up. So I can see why people have, and I've had all these thoughts about we're divided or whatever, because like you said, the media pushes that. They pushes the division. And so that's the comment I just wanted to make.
We are
I'm
at
done.
a place. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'm sorry. I was just going to comment. We're at a place now where you have to hopefully recognize that you are the spark that the darkness needs. We are that spark, and it is no more why me, why wrong, why this little boy out of New Orleans, South Carolina. The little boy turned his heart to find truth, and in turning his heart to find truth, he found others with like passion, and together we fuel each other, and we are the difference maker. I could care less who else is doing this, or if anybody else is doing this. We are doing it, and I want to see it through, and that everything is done in the power of man to bring about the vision, and that is why this is so important. All of this stuff that happened in the Middle East, and all of this that even as a part of sparking this conversation has a reason, and as we hopefully continue to meet like this, we grow closer and we grow stronger. And do not lose focus. Harmony, forgiveness and harmony. Anyone else? Questions or comments? The inner nomad says that we have chosen to be different, not to be more, not to be better, but we have asked to see the truth, and in doing so, the Creator has set us aside that we may receive the enlightenment that the earth needs, the universe needs. That's the nomad. So the sight, the things you see, we don't see them with the same type of vision. It's time we look at that. Anyone else? Questions or comments? Okay. I think it's maybe a good place to pause.
Ron, let's see if George.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
George is the one who raised the initial questions about this.
Yes,
I want to see if he's that we address his initial questions. Because again, I agree with you that if the question had not been raised, we would not be having this discussion, which is very much needed.
Yeah.
George.
Are you there, George? Okay, maybe he's at
I think
work.
he's gone, Ron. I don't see his number unless I'm overlooking.
Okay. Anyone else, though? Question or comment on any of that?
Hey, good morning. This is Audrey.
Hey, Audrey.
I kind of agree with Barb, because isn't that kind of our trial by fire to refine us, make us know who we are? Isn't that the whole point of our experience?
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You're correct.
Was Pastor talking just now? I couldn't hear him.
I said, yes, you absolutely, yeah, that is what we're doing. Yeah.
I think you're cutting out again, Pastor.
Okay. What about now? Can you hear me now, Audrey? Am I being heard by anyone?
I can hear you, Audrey. Maybe Audrey's cutting out.
Okay.
Audrey,
Okay,
you,
maybe it's me. I don't
Okay.
know.
No, I was saying that I agree with you, and with Barbara, because this is our purpose for knowing who we are. If we don't know who we are, we cannot change anything really until we are truly embrace who we are. So yes, ma'am, it is about that.
and I think that bears witness when you look at the scriptures, looking at the patriarchs or anything in the Old Testament. Things push them in a corner. Things happen, make them see who they were, and that's part of our development as well. These things don't happen haphazardly. Okay, good discussion. Do you guys agree this is a good place to take a pause, a good place to stop for the day, rather than starting something new?
Yep, I do.
I do.
Okay. Again, any questions or comments or something you may have, you write them down and send a text, and we will gladly begin there tomorrow. Okay. But thank you. Another good. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi.